take a selfie there,
Holy crow, you guys, this channel has taken off recently. To be honest, it's largely thanks to my favorite animal of all time, the walrus.
Good job! You did it! Yay!
In case you're new here, and many of you are, I'm KP, a marine biologist with a decade's worth of experience working with marine mammals. I'm going to use the explosion of interest in my walrus videos to share my love of them with you. Because walruses are just so unique. There is quite literally nothing like them in the world. Walruses are so bizarre that there is a surprising amount of people who think my videos are CGI. Walruses are, though, in fact, pinnipeds, which is a suborder of carnivores that includes seals and sea lions. And they do share a lot of similarities with their genetic cousins, like flippers and whiskers. But unlike seals and sea lions who live near some densely populated places like California, walruses live exclusively in the Arctic. However, this extreme northern habitat also means it is extremely unlikely for the rest of the world to see a walrus. But I promise you, this is a real animal. His name is Balzac, and before you say anything, yes, that is his real name. Balzac was born in Quebec and is named after the French author Honoré de Balzac. Balzac is a juvenile Pacific walrus. He and his tusks will likely be twice this size when he's finished growing. Walrus tusks, just like the tusks on an elephant, are modified teeth. In walruses, these are their upper maxillary canines. Walruses also have other teeth such as premolars, molars, and incisors, which you can see here. We'll get to them in a moment, but for now let's focus on the tusks, because tusks are different from the rest of their teeth in several ways. For one, they constantly grow throughout their lives.
That's good, baby.
And second, they're not used for eating. Both male and female walruses have tusks, and they use them typically to climb out of the water and onto Arctic ice floes, sort of like built-in ice picks, because walruses are huge, and it's not easy pulling their massive bodies out of the water, as you can see here. They're even named after this behavior. The scientific name for walruses, Obdobenus rosmarus, means tooth-walking seahorse. Which leads me to the most frequently asked questions on my walrus videos. What are the metal caps on the tusks? Long story short, the caps are preventative dentistry. Unlike the rest of their teeth, walrus tusks lack protective enamel. This makes them vulnerable to cracking, chipping, and breaking. Because of shrinking sea ice, it's becoming more and more common for walruses to haul out on land and rocky beaches, which are far less forgiving than ice. A damaged tusk can lead to a life-threatening infection because the roots of the tusk grow deep into the sinuses and very near the brain. The metal caps just help to prevent this from happening. Whenever I see a wild walrus, or any walrus for that matter, the first thing I look at is their tusks. What about their other teeth? As I mentioned, walruses have molars, but they're not really used for chewing their food. Walruses are suction feeders and typically swallow their food whole. But they primarily prey on shelled bivalves like clams. They'll suck the clam into their mouth and then crush it with those teeth, and then suck the meat right out of that broken shell. For a while, scientists believed the tusks were used to dig up these bivalves from the seafloor. But recent analysis of abrasion patterns on the tusks actually revealed that this isn't true. Instead, walruses actually use their whiskers for the digging.
Mustache. Good.
Each walrus whisker, scientifically known as vibrissae, has nerve endings and a blood supply in every single one. And there's roughly 500 or so on their faces. This makes them some of the most evolved sensory tools in the world. Capable of differentiating tiny objects as small as 2 millimeters wide. That's equivalent to the tip of a mechanical pencil. And each vibrissae also has unique muscle structures that allow them to move independently. Walruses use these vibrissae to sift through the seafloor and search for food. This leads me to another question that I get all the time. What do their whiskers feel like? Walrus vibrissae feel like that hard, uncooked pasta. And the muscles in their face that allow them to move this uncooked pasta around, well, it's one of my favorite things about them. The muscles around their face really sets them apart from other animals. It's known as their mustachial pad. They are capable of a wide range of facial expressions and vocalizations, like growls,
Hum. Sing. Beautiful. Sputter. Good.
and they can even whistle. You can watch how I trained Balzac to whistle in this video right up here. I saw him trying to whistle, so I encouraged him and rewarded him for that behavior.
Balzac is trying to whistle, so I might try this for a little bit longer and then we'll get out of here. Whistle. Good. You tried.
I'm really glad I was there for his first whistle. It's a behavior that typically adult males do, and it is sort of a big milestone for them, almost a walrus rite of passage. In the wild, male walruses whistle to impress the ladies, and they typically whistle the most during breeding season. I could honestly talk for hours about walruses. They are so incredible. They only have fur in the summertime. They shed it before the winter because their fur doesn't keep them warm. It just prevents them from getting a sunburn. So let me know if you have any questions down in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and check out the descriptions if you want some more amazing walrus facts. And I'll catch you next time. Walrus tusks, just like the tusks on an elephant. Jesus. One more time. Walrus tusks, just like the tusks on an elephant. Each walrus, that is a tough one. In the wild, male walruses whistle. There's a lot of tongue twisters in this one. Balzac est né au Québec et porte le nom du célèbre auteur Honoré de Balzac.
Hey, we haven't gotten our selfie. Hey, get in here. Get in here. Get in here. I missed you. I missed you.